Welcome to LexisNexis Risk Solutions Facing Change series. I'm Angus Sim, and I'm hosting a series of discussions focusing on how we all, businesses, industry, and others, are coping in the face of this unprecedented crisis we find ourselves in. Now, the role of government in this crisis is unparalleled in living memory. So today, I'm delighted to welcome a guest who brings a wealth of experience from within the government, Amber Rudd. Very warm welcome, Amber.
Thank you, Angus. Hello.
When you were in office in your previous career, have you seen anything remotely like this crisis that might give us some guide as to how we deal with a pandemic of this scale?
The scale of it, the impact, and the unknown elements of it are totally new. When I was in government, particularly as Home Secretary, I certainly experienced different types of high drama, different types of catastrophes, some floods that really impacted terribly on communities, the terrorism of 2017. And at that point, all the machinery of government would focus on trying to find the terrorists, trying to resolve the situation and deal with those sort of emergencies. But no, I haven't seen anything on this scale.
So government and countries going to face a whole myriad of different challenges. How well prepared are we to face the likely or any potential likely increased threat from crime, organised crime, cybercrime as this crisis unfolds?
In the UK, we're very lucky to have the National Cyber Security Centre, which is a subsidiary of GCHQ, which was set up under George Osborne and David Cameron with a substantial grant. And actually, a lot of the other countries in Europe and further afield are very jealous of it because it's a very effective cybersecurity centre. So we have that to help keep us safe. But this is a particular time when there will be more cybercrime than before. And I think that everybody should be extra vigilant.
One of the things that is at the heart of online services, digital world we live in is trusted identity verification. Is it time that the UK really got to grips with its digital identity strategy going forward? Both government and private sector appreciate these things aren't always done in isolation.
Yes, this is a real conundrum for governments and for the population at large. I mean, the UK is one of the very few European countries that doesn't have, for instance, an ID card. So already we start from a position where a lot of the population are fundamentally opposed to having an ID card. I think that has moved on. And over the past few years, I've actually been calling for the introduction of an ID card in the UK. After all, we all give so much information online anyway. I think that people have got into the habit of expecting their ID to be recognised very quickly. And if we had an ID card, it doesn't actually have to be a card, of course. It could just be an online identification. Then so much other elements of government in terms of identification and in terms of information about the individual would be so much more straightforward. The caveat there obviously is that the public don't really trust the government. And ever since the Snowden dramas, the public trust the government even less. They will give so much information to Facebook and to other online sites, but they don't want to give it to government. And I think that maybe one of the things that will come out of this terrible period is a recognition that the government can work for the individual, should work for the individual. And there's been so much in the press recently and commentary about the fact that the way to deal with the virus, the way to get out of the virus and to have a safe society will be to share data. And the public are going to have to enter into that willingly in order to share that data so that the virus can be tracked.
Do you think we're actually more resilient than we perhaps think we are? Do you think the economy could bounce back relatively quickly in light of the fact that there are businesses that are keeping going now through remote working and other things?
Well, I think that I understand online sales are doing very well. And all the retail organisations in the UK that already have a good website have moved all their sales online, obviously, because their shops, if they had them, are basically not functioning. And a lot of the public now are getting used to doing many more of their sales online. The difficulty is going to be, if this goes on for a long time, is getting that fulfilled. Because a lot of the warehouses now are operating at about 50% of their capacity because of the spacing that's needed between individuals. And over a period, a lot of those fulfillment houses may find it difficult to complete the orders. You can't sustain for the long term everybody doing their shopping online with only partial attendance at the warehouses that fulfill them. So there's going to be a problem there. But I do think that the return to normalcy could be reasonably swift. That doesn't mean I don't underestimate the difficulty that we're in. But unlike the banking crisis, which basically had a long tail, I think that the recovery here could be quite quick, but that the fall is going to be even more dramatic. I mean, people have been talking about a 3 or 4 or 5% fall in GDP. I'm afraid I think it could be higher.
Just the broader learnings that we might expect to see governments thinking about, and obviously it's easy with the benefit of hindsight to draw conclusions, but what kind of positive changes would you be hoping to look for in as governments take learnings from this crisis to make us more resilient for future ones? Our government and international governments. What's your view?
Well, I think there's been some talk about whether government should have an insurance scheme in the future about insurance scheme that would protect businesses and employees in the event of such a pandemic rather than going straight to government. We have that for terrorism, we didn't used to, and it's been quite effective. We have that for flooding, we didn't used to, and that's also been quite effective. So there may be an initiative to try and set up an insurance buffer, as it were, between government and businesses in the event of this. I think overall, once the recovery sets in, it will make government more resilient, because should this happen again, and I certainly hope it doesn't, having experienced it before, government will know the right moves to make. The fact that this has been so unknown, unexpected, and unrehearsed has been what has made it so difficult for people to come to terms with.
Do you have any personal reflections on this crisis that you'd be happy to share with us, or either in terms of how we all approach this, or even how you might rethink future priorities?
Like everybody, I'm desperately concerned about the people who are ill, the families of the people who have passed away, and I'm also very concerned about the people in lockdown who are unhappy, who might have domestic abuse issues. I'm very worried about all those people. As Home Secretary of Domestic Abuse, tackling it was one of the central things I tried to deal with, and I'm very concerned about those people who will be not having a very difficult time on lockdown. But on a positive note, if I may, is that I just think we are so lucky to live in a country that is able to handle a pandemic like this. And when the NHS says we need volunteers, they are bowled over by the number of people who apply. They asked for 250,000, they got 700,000. I've now got the app on my phone. I'm waiting expectantly for it to go so I can go and help somebody with arriving back from the hospital or something like that. I think that the vast majority of people's responses has been entirely positive, giving and caring. And I think we're very lucky to live in a community like that.